What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Monday, December 22nd, 2025, and we are back with another live here on the Torian Rain Reloaded channel. If you have not done so already, please be sure to go ahead and hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button if you are new. And if you are new to the channel, please be sure to go ahead and hit the bell twice to be notified whenever I upload a new video or go live, or simply join the Discord and you should be notified in there. Before we get into everything, let me go ahead and acknowledge the people who came in here earlier. Some of y'all were here since last night. Some of y'all were here since earlier this morning, which means y'all was ready to see what we was going to talk about today. So before we get into everything, shout out to Quincy Gray for being the first person to leave a comment in the chat and becoming a new member of the channel. I'm appreciative of that. We got Hacksign KT, Raging Woody, AW1, Dimple Face Fire, Bat D Money, SD Johnson, August Dream, Reparations Nation, DSM Sinister, Wallow J, Hurricane Nisi, Dark Titan, Spirit of Justice, Sybil, Andrea Jones, FC 775, David Brown, Jazz, Cosma Fury, GDS, Mansa Musa, Van, Ryan James, Indigo, Cynthia C, Emmanuel, Corey, Priscilla, Only Us, and that is it so far. Y'all want to know what's so interesting about this live? And it dawned on me probably about an hour or so ago. If y'all remember, if y'all were subscribed to me last year around this time, I did a live on Matt Walsh when he was coping about his feelings towards the Sonic 3 movie. Because the Sonic 3 movie came out around this time last year. I think it came out like the 19th or something like that. And he had did a whole rant about Sonic 3 that made no sense, and his audience and those who are not his audience clowned him, including myself. So here we are, a year later, about to clown him again about some nonsense. What are the odds? And I always say Matt Walsh does this type of thing every month. He finds something so minuscule, so out of left field, and he makes a mountain out of a molehill, and then he just goes completely left with it. And today he's going to be talking about anti-white male discrimination. In case y'all are unaware, on Twitter, that seems to be the new talking point. Apparently now white men feel like they are being oppressed, and people are trying to figure out what in the world is going on. You got JD Vance at AmFest talking about to tell white people to stop apologizing for being white, and we're trying to figure out when did they ever apologize for being white. Even some white people are trying to figure that out too. Because this video that we're reacting to from Matt Walsh is like an hour long, which means we're going to be on here for over an hour. I have to. This is actually going to be kind of like a part one. So part one is going to be today, and then part two is going to be on on Wednesday at the same time, where we're going to go over where now they have now turned this anti-white male thing almost into policy, if you can believe it. And I'm not shocked because, and I'm going to give y'all a little tease. The EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, I think that's what it's called. The chairman of that, whose name is Andrea something, she has now put out a statement that says that if you are a white male in employment or any form of employment and you feel like you're getting discriminated against, contact them. Not only will they get the person that you claim has oppressed you, get them taken care of, but they'll also give you some kind of a settlement payment for your grievance. I'm not making this up. If you don't believe me, you can look that up at your own time and you'll be like, wow, this thing is like now is getting ready to turn into policy. So like I said, today we're going to go over just the video with Matt Walsh and what he's saying. And then on Wednesday, we're going to go over that EEOC thing that they done put out there. DSM Sinister, I wish I was making that up. I'm not making. Wait till Wednesday. Y'all come back here on Wednesday. Like I said, if Matt Walsh's video wasn't an hour long, we would have covered both of those today. But because this video is so long and I'm not trying to be on here all night, we'll just split it up. So with that being said, let me go ahead now and share my screen, and we can go ahead and get this thing started. And again, if y'all haven't done so already, please hit the like button. I will greatly appreciate it. So as you can see, this is posted up by Matt Walsh on the 17th, so just a couple days ago. And he titled it, "How Anti-White Male Discrimination is the Root of Our Decline." Jonathan, I wish this was a prank, but this is not a prank. They are being very serious about this. Yet, Wallow, you might need a little bit more than popcorn to get through this one. I'm just saying, his rant or whatever he gonna talk about is an hour long. Let me see if I can speed this up a little bit. All right, y'all, let's get it started.
Today, the Matt Walsh Show, a viral op-ed calls attention to the extreme institutional discrimination against white males. Lots of people are shocked by it, but this is not new information, to put it mildly. Also, Congress, which is controlled by Republicans, by the way, removes a Robert E. Lee statue, replaces it with some black woman you've never heard of, and Kamala Harris might consider running for president again. I, for one, am really concerned about this, and I'll make a plea for the mercy and grace of Democrats to avoid this catastrophe for Republicans. All of that and more today, the Matt Walsh Show. Of preventing veteran suicide. Your patronage has allowed Pure Talk to donate offers everywhere you look. So more attention grabbing.
I'm trying to get past the ads,
scalping tickets
and the sponsors.
From his bedroom. Now, it's not hard to see why Savage's article has been so well received. It's a well-researched, well-written explanation of how major institutions in this country, particularly the media and Hollywood, have systematically discriminated against white men over the past decade. Now, it's definitely not a perfect article for reasons that we'll get into. And it reaches a conclusion that is obviously wrong and frankly kind of embarrassing. But at the same time, if you've been looking for reasons why every aspect of society seems to be falling apart, and we've been, talking about that on the show for the past few weeks, this piece in Comeback Magazine is a very good jumping-off point. Now, in particular, the article includes the following statistics on writing jobs in the entertainment industry, which help explain why every streaming show and movie, virtually without exception, is now terrible. Quote, in 2011, the year I moved to Los Angeles, white men were 48% of lower-level TV writers. By 2024, they accounted for just 11.9%. Women of color made up 34.6%. White men directed 69% of TV episodes in 2014 and just 34% by 2021. But that remaining third went overwhelmingly to established names, leaving little space for younger white men. Since 2021, 11 directors under 40 have been nominated for Emmys. None of them have been white men.
So as you can see, this is where it's stemming from. It's stemming from entertainment, like entertainment jobs. Because look at what he led with. This is what he's talking about. So because you feel like you're not getting recognition in Hollywood, and we know who runs Hollyweird, but because you feel like you're not being represented like that, now you want to cry about it. You've always been the standard. And quiet as it's kept, unfortunately, you still are.
By 2021. But that remaining third went overwhelmingly to established names, leaving little space for younger white men. Since 2021, 11 directors under 40 have been nominated for Emmys. None of them have been white men. Now, the article goes on to describe a white man who wrote a screenplay that made it on Hollywood's blacklist, which is a prestigious list of unproduced screenplays, as determined by Hollywood executives. But despite that achievement, he couldn't land a full-time staff job from any showrunner. At one point, he was told to his face by a showrunner, a Gen X white guy, we're told, that they already had too many white people on staff. And the author also notes that Dan Erickson, the white guy who created the Apple TV show Severance, which is the best show on TV today, I think by a mile, and one of the best of this century, wasn't able to land a job in a TV writer's room until his own show began production. And in some cases, the discrimination was put in writing. One higher up at a talent agency wrote, quote, Chicago Fire, the UL upper level, can be anyone, but we need diverse SWs, staff writers. Savage also points to the Disney writing program, which is basically a boot camp that leads in most cases directly to full-time staff writing jobs on major shows. And over the past decade, Savage notes, the writing program has awarded 107 writing fellowships and 17 directing fellowships, none of which have been given to white men. None of them. Now here's
remember, y'all, these are the same people who a couple years ago was telling us, black people, to stop making everything about race. But the minute that they feel like they're being oppressed and they're not, now they want to insert race into it because they're the ones that they feel like are hurting. This goes back. Y'all remember when they came up with that so-called great replacement theory a couple years ago? I think that was Tucker Carlson that kicked all of that off when he was still working at Fox News. and that went nowhere.
This is the webpage for the current crop of fellows in the Disney writing program. And see what you notice when you look at this. There's only one person who could plausibly be described as a white male in the entire cohort. And when you look at that guy's bio, he informs you that he's a Tejano comedy writer who's proud of his queer crime comedy pilots. And that's the other thing. When we talk about the white males who are allowed to get jobs in this business, if you were to narrow it down even further, which this piece doesn't do, to straight white males, then the situation becomes even more dire. And every single one of the bios on this webpage begins with a statement about the person's ethnic origin. So Nada is a first-generation Iranian-American drama writer. Ali is a Lebanese-American writer from Detroit, Michigan. Monib is a first-generation Afghan-American writer. Jason is a first-generation Korean-American drama writer. Ananya is a first-generation Indian-American dramedy writer. Fatima is a Sudanese-American traumedy writer based in Los Angeles, and so on. So it's pretty obvious that in the eyes of Disney and the rest of Hollywood, it doesn't actually matter if you're a good writer. Your most important attribute is your ethnicity.
No, I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that. But that's the narrative that Matt Walsh is going to go with. Because let's hypothetically say it was white men that got selected and they put out something that was mediocre. Matt wouldn't be getting up here talking about this. He wouldn't even be up here talking. See, now they're doing the identity politics thing. I tell you, let them just talk long enough and they will eventually, like KG says, own themselves. The same thing that they kept telling us to stop doing or not do or dibble and dabble in victimhood, that's exactly what they're doing right now. And they feel if they make enough noise, then policy will come down. That's why I say make sure y'all are available on Wednesday at 7 p.m. because then we're going to go into the policy part too. A lot of y'all are like, when in the chat were completely shocked when I said that.
If you look even vaguely white, then you'd better be writing queer comedies about Tejano heritage, because otherwise you're definitely out of luck. I'm not going to summarize all of Savage's findings, but this should give you some idea. He goes on to describe, in much the same way, how other fields, from academia to the corporate press, practice the same kind of anti-white discrimination, particularly for entry-level jobs. The statistics from the university system in California in particular are actually so over the top that they're hard to believe. UC Irvine hired 64 tenure-track assistant professors in liberal arts since 2020, and only 3 of them were white men. And for its part, UC Santa Cruz only hired 2 white.
And my thing is this: why is Matt Walsh even concerned about this? This isn't something that he would typically concern himself with anyway, but because they're not hiring white men like that, now he wants to make it a point of concern. He doesn't even really care. He just wants something to talk about, because every day with Matt Walsh is a slow news day. You know that by the stuff that he posts on his Twitter account every single day. Nothing of it is of any importance.
Men out of 59 assistant professors in the humanities in that same time period. Savage's thesis is that starting around 2014, in response to political and social pressures, older and more established white men, the decision makers and hiring managers, began openly discriminating against younger white applicants who were...
Exactly, Wallow J. You said, I thought conservatives hated Hollywood. Weren't they the same ones talking about Hollywood as woke and everything like that? And notice he mentioned Disney. You know they so-called hate Disney. Listen, no, they don't. They love when Disney pulls the stunts that they do, because that gives them the content and the maneuvering room for them to say the stuff that they say when they bastardize the word woke all the time.
Starting their careers. And rather than stand on principle, Savage writes, the boomers effectively sabotaged younger generations. 2014, he writes, was the hinge, the year DEI became institutionalized across American life. And then we get this conclusion, which is where things go off the rails a bit. Quote, I'm not angry at the women and people of color who made it instead of me. People have the right, in most cases, the responsibility to take the opportunities that are offered them, or even at the older white guys who ensured that I didn't. Mostly, I'm annoyed at myself, because instead of settling down, proposing to my then girlfriend, now wife, and earning a steady income that might support a family, I spent a decade insisting the world treat me fairly, when the world was loudly telling me it had no intention of doing so. So he's not angry about the people who discriminated against him on the basis of his skin color. He's angry at...
I highly doubt they discriminated against him because he was white, or a white man, I should say. I highly doubt that. Of course, Matt would read into that differently, because he reads things way differently than a normal human would. We comprehend way differently than he does.
Himself. He's certainly not angry at the unqualified people, the quote-unquote people of color, who got the jobs that he should have gotten by all rights. He's angry at himself. And this was the moment in reading this article that I decided to look into Compact Magazine a little more closely. And in doing so, I found the following tidbit of information, which is interesting per Vanity Fair. Quote, at a recent get-together, lefty mags were roiled to learn that George Soros' foundations are supporting Compact, a publication that's flirted with authoritarianism. It was weird to me the whole effing time, says one attendee. Now, the article goes on to note that Soros' Open Society foundations have sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to Compact, and I have no idea why that donation was made or what it may have purchased. The leftists at Vanity Fair, they weren't sure either. But I can say that having read this article myself, I find myself agreeing with commentators like Oren McIntyre, who have called Jacob Savage's article a permission piece. It's a way to finally admit something that the left had previously described as a conspiracy. Except the admission is done in a way that lessens the impact and frames the narrative in a way that is beneficial to the left. And meanwhile, all the leftist journalists can act shocked by the findings, including the ones that are sharing this piece on X right now, shocked and appalled by it, even though everybody on the right has known all of this for years and been saying it and been dismissed. Now, think of the mainstream articles that finally acknowledged COVID came from a lab in China, or the articles that acknowledge that the COVID shot can cause serious heart problems. These were all permission pieces. Audiences on the left were finally told a semblance of the truth, but there's never any accountability for the liars, nor is there a full explanation of what actually happened, nor is there an apology. Basically, you get a permission piece when the left's hand is forced. They can't deny reality anymore because the truth has become too obvious. And we've been seeing some of this, by the way, on the trans issue, too, with certain articles in mainstream publications admitting that, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this to kids, maybe it's a bad idea to castrate kids and all this sort of thing. And saying it like they're the first people to ever say it. So that's how this goes. Now, in the case of the piece in Compact Magazine, there are a few elements of obvious spin. The first is the article's implication that systematic anti-white discrimination only really took hold in 2014. In fact, Savage even writes that if you were born in 1974 or earlier, then you were already established and didn't hit the wall of anti-white discrimination. But that is a claim that makes the generational divide seem much starker than it really is. Because in reality, the left's efforts to systematically discriminate against white people and white males in particular, that's been in place for many decades. I mean, this has been going on for a very long time.
Can someone let me know when this allegedly started? Like, when did this start, this anti-white male thing in America? Can someone please let me know when all of this allegedly started? Because I don't know when it actually happened. I'm trying to figure that. I'm listening to Matt trying to not drift off into space somewhere and understand, when did white men in America start getting oppressed? Like, what year, what month, what date?
Back in 2003, there was a major Supreme Court case about the University of Michigan's application process, which was similar to the process used by many other schools. If you were Black, Hispanic, or Native American, then your application automatically received 20 points. By contrast, if you earned a perfect SAT score, something only a few hundred students do every year out of millions of test takers, then you only got 12 points. And an outstanding personal essay would only get you 3 points. In other words, a white student from a middle-class background with a perfect SAT score and a flawless essay received fewer points than a Black applicant would receive simply for being Black. And even after the Supreme Court struck down this kind of question.
Oh, now I think I'm starting to get. I think I'm starting to be aware of it. Mind y'all, this is my first time y'all watching this, because there's no way I would have watched this thing twice. So for many of y'all, this is y'all first time watching it, and for me, it's my first time watching it as well. Notice how many times he keeps mentioning Black people. So again, in typical Matt Walsh fashion, this goes back to Black people. Of course, he wasn't going to let that people of color slide for too long. He was going to eventually hone in on who he has a real issue with, which is Black people, which is not surprising coming from a Matt Walsh, because he always does this. He always complains that he can't say the N-word, or why he can't say the N-word. Why, as a white man, can I have a freedom to say? As a white man, as any person, you can say whatever you want. However, there are consequences to your actions, and you cannot just walk up to anybody and saying that word and think nothing going to happen. And that's what irks him. That is what burns him up, is that he can't say that word freely without something happening. When they say make America great again, we know what they're talking about.
Quota system, it persisted, as we all know. The universities just stopped admitting that they were doing it. And long before that, in the 1960s, there was the Philadelphia plan, where federal contractors were required to start hiring so-called minority workers in the trades, a practice that continues today with a fairly explicit quota system. For tens of thousands of white construction workers beginning in the 1970s, it became more difficult to get an apprenticeship, not because they weren't skilled, not because they didn't have potential, but because of the color of their skin. So we could talk about many more examples, because there are an infinite number, but put simply, the idea that DEI and anti-white racism only became a systemic barrier to white education and employment in 2014 is not remotely true. Savage is probably correct to point out that in the industries he's talking about, mainly media and entertainment, things accelerated in 2014. But plenty of people in other industries hit this.
I don't remember there. That's why I asked earlier. I don't remember there being some discussion of anti-white whatever in 2014. I don't. Again, Matt is pulling stuff out of his crack
wall well before then. Now, the other element of the story that's being de-emphasized here is that when white men are passed over for jobs because of their skin color, there are plenty of downstream consequences. You know, it's not simply the fact that white men have to settle for worse salaries and less fulfilling careers. They're also less likely to ever own a home or to get married.
And whose problem is that? That sounds like a personal problem. Again, these be the same people that tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. So we're going to tell you the same thing. Pull yourself up by your bootstrap. It has nothing to do with your race. Unlike with us, 9 times out of 10, it probably does.
Their family have kids. They're more likely to become depressed and turn to drugs, which explains why overdose rates are so high.
Again, a personal problem.
And through it all, as fertility rates plummet and men are forced to work jobs that they're overqualified for, men realize exactly what's happening to them. It's not some great mystery.
Well, Matt Walsh, welcome to what Black people in America have to deal with every single day. And that's what it boils down to. They do not want to be in a position of what Black people have been in for so many years, a position people like his clan ancestors put us in, put our ancestors in. That's what they're scared of. They are scared that they are going to become, their status is going to dwindle on that totem pole. That's what they're fearful of.
And that leads to justifiable rage as millions of working age men come to realize that their lives have been sacrificed for a leftist experiment. Now, the biggest and most important downstream consequence of this open discrimination against white men is that everything in society gets worse as a result. That is.
I got to hear this. I got to hear this. So now he's saying that if white men are oppressed, then that means that the establishment is going to take a nosedive. Well, I got to hear this.
The second order effect that the compact piece doesn't really get into. It's the third rail, the part you're not supposed to talk about. But the truth, which everybody intuitively knows, is that things were a lot better back when white men were not being discriminated against by every institution in the country, but instead were running most of them.
There you go. Oh, it only took us, where are we at? 14, well, on his clock, almost 15 minutes on ours, 25 minutes for him to get to what he really wanted to say. White men should just run every single thing, and then everything will be balanced. This goes right back to what Nick Fuentes said when he was on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan had played that clip when he said that Black people belong in prison, something about the South of the Borderian and something about another particular group that was not white. And he said if all of this stuff happened to them, then white people will live in paradise. I did a short today, y'all may or may not have seen it, about what was going on at AmFest and all that infighting that was going on. What paradise is that exactly? Because it was only besides Nicki Minaj, and I got some stuff to say about her, so stay tuned for that. And they kept bringing up Candace Owens, who wasn't even there for the most. And then when they weren't talking about them two, they were slinging mud at each other. So imagine if that was a microcosm of what paradise looked like. And that's just them using their words.
Now, the fact of the matter is that a hugely disproportionate number of our greatest leaders, innovators, pioneers, explorers, philosophers, and so on, have been white men.
Here comes the revisionist history as told by Matt Walsh.
I mean, without white men, we wouldn't have airplanes or spaceships or trains or phones or light bulbs or computers or the internet.
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. He said without white men, we wouldn't have all these. Hold on. Some of them inventions weren't made by white men, Matt Walsh. Let's be completely honest with ourselves here. So now here it is. Oh, this is the part I was waiting for. This was the part I was waiting for. Now this is where he's going to start getting into the rambling, the ramble part. This is it. Because Matt Walsh tends to do that. Once he gets emotional about something, that's when he that's when he gets deep into his lie.
or batteries or X-ray machines or jet engines or rockets or 1,000 other things that our society depends on to exist and to flourish. We never would have had a railway system or the printing press. We wouldn't have this country, which was founded by white men and led by white men and expanded from coast to coast and settled and built up mostly by white men.
Matt, whatever helps you sleep at night, I suppose.
Now, these are all facts, historical realities that cannot be denied by reasonable people. It's just true. And while
they can't be denied by reasonable people. Matt, you're not reasonable. You're not logical. You have no morals, and you are a flat, bold-faced liar and staunchly anti-black.
Black women are encouraged to be proud of the historical achievements of black women, whatever those might be.
Oh, well, black women, you heard what he just said? He just downplayed black women's achievement. He said black women are pushed to celebrate black women's achievement, whatever they might be. More, I'll tell you this much, Matt, more than whatever you so-called achieve, I'll tell you that much. Matt Walsh, do you know if a black woman just graduated from getting her bachelor's degree, she's already more successful than you because aren't you a college dropout? If a black woman got her, you know what? That'll be saying too much. I'll just stick with the bachelor's. You didn't even get that. You dropped out of college, much like all these other mediocre white supremacist men like Matt Walsh.
And Asians to be proud of Asian achievements and Native Americans of Native American achievements and so on. White men are the one group on the entire face of the planet who've been forbidden to even acknowledge what other white men have accomplished, much less to express any pride in it, God forbid. Instead, our society set out on a campaign to punish and exclude and alienate this very group. That is their reward for having carried the weight of Western civilization on their shoulders. But white men, as it turns out, they're not just good at building and flying spaceships. They're also good at writing television shows and covering the news and teaching students at the university level and so on. In fact,
no, Jonathan, that was Charlie Kirk that dropped out of a junior college. But Matt Walsh he's a college dropout too, but I don't think it was from a junior college. I think his was a 4-year school.
In the aggregate, based on every existing piece of available evidence, white men are better at all of these tasks than the allegedly underprivileged communities that are replacing them.
See, again, now he's not saying he's not. Well, first of all, he didn't come in here to speak facts anyway because Matt Walsh doesn't dabble in facts. He's he's big upping white men more than they need to be to make himself feel good. And the thing is, you could type in all the stuff that he said in Chat GPT, and it would debunk everything that he said. And shout out to Wallow J for being a member for 21 months. He says, I see Matt is delineating white men achievements from white women. Of course he is. And shout out to you for being a member for 21 months. Hey, KG just entered the chat. And you entered at a good time, KG.
And if that sounds harsh, I really don't care. It happens to just be true.
It happens to
and
not
the
be
underrepresented
true.
minorities, so-called, that I'm talking about in many cases, can be some of the most vindictive people in the country. Back in 2015, as the author Wesley Yang pointed out, BuzzFeed published one of their insufferable listicles that were very popular back in those days. This one was titled 23 Writers with Messages for Straight White Male Publishing. And we'll put up some of the messages on the screen right now so you can see them. So you have girl bosses of various ethnicities saying things like, sit down and let us abolish.
He said various ethnicities. I only see one, and she's Asian. We talking about various. He made it seem like it was he made it seem like it was multiple women of different backgrounds, and this is one woman in that picture.
And she's coming for you with a middle finger. These are explicitly hateful, deranged messages directed at white men, and they were published enthusiastically by a major news outlet. Like the kind of thing you would never see directed at any other race.
Oh, Matt, is your little feelings hurt? You need to run home to mommy and have her kiss your little boo-boo and give you a lollipop and say, go back outside and, play some more, give you a little Band-Aid with the dinosaur on it. Y'all, Matt's feelings are hurt. His feelings are, he's fragile. He's broken.
Or group ever. And this kind of race hate was commonplace in 2015. And this is in publishing, which, yet again, well, what have white men done in publishing? What sin have they committed? Well, I don't know. I mean, only like most of the greatest authors in the history of Western civilization have been white men. Not all of them, but most of them.
Oh, now you want to be honest? That's probably the most honest thing he said so far, right? Well, right there when he said not all of the greatest authors have been white men. Because you already know he already lied earlier by naming off these inventions that I know a lot of the white men didn't have no hand in making. They probably took credit for it when it's got to cross that patent office threshold.
Yeah, if you were to make a list of the top 500, I think like 480 of them at least would be white men.
Now he just lied again. He said if you listed 500 authors, at least 480 of them would be white men. Sir, I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that.
So that's the sin that white men committed in publishing, was just being like really, really good at it and being great, brilliant writers. And so for that trouble, not only are they cut out, but they get a middle finger on the way out the door. And guess what? The girl bosses were right. I mean, they did abolish white men in the entertainment industry.
White men are not abolishing the entertainment industry. What in the world is he talking about? They're still very much there.
Writers are mostly women and minorities now, and almost all their shows are garbage.
That's very opinionated right there. The same could be said about some of these white male-led shows and movies, but you can go off, Matt.
I mean, can you give me an example of a show? And maybe you can. I'm just throwing this out there. Can you give me an example of a show that is where the writer's room is predominantly consists of minorities and women, and the show is good?
I'm sure there's several.
Can you give one example of that? I think you probably can. I think there's not one example of that. I think that
notice he says I think. He doesn't say that I know that there isn't one. So there's doubt that's setting in his brain as he's uttering this nonsense.
This cohort has not managed to make one good show ever.
Then can you name us a good show, Matt? We're curious.
Is what it is. That's just the facts of the matter. I mean, it's almost as if they're intentionally bad. You know, television peaked before all these people took over. And the only conclusion you can draw realistically is that girl bosses, I don't know, shouldn't be allowed to write shows. They're not good at it. Bring back the white men. I mean, they knew how to do this. They made good shows.
Oh, trust me, Matt. There was some shows out there that was made by white men that didn't even make it past the pilot. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Like I said, he's pedestalizing white men so much that he's literally speaking a bunch of BS, and he's framing it as if it's true. This is emotional. You know what's so funny? He keeps talking about white heterosexual masculine men. Well, Matt Walsh, I got a question. What white heterosexual masculine man gets up in front of their camera for an hour to ramble about the victimhood of white men? What does that make you? Because I'm looking at my chat and everyone's calling you whiny. And I looked at some of the comments under this video and they were calling you whiny. That's not indicative of whatever it is that you're trying to portray. It actually never has been. And don't you still work for the Daily Wire where your boss is another whiny white man? I'm sensing a pattern, a routine.
And if that ever happens, it will only happen if, unlike this Compact article, we're honest about what white men have achieved in the past. You know, the left can only ever tear down what has been built, and white men are the primary builders of Western civilization. Make a list of the 1,000 greatest and most influential figures of the past 2 millennia in any field, not just publishing, any field. And I don't know, 975 of them will be white men.
Oh, God. So now he went from 480 authors would be in the top 500 books written would be white men. Now he's saying 1,000 inventions created in Western civilization, 975 of them would be white men. I swear, this is some He-Man Woman Haters Club from the Little Rascals mixed with No Man from Married with Children.
if not more. It is suicidal to target this group of all groups.
But again, y'all remember this is the same man that last year who went on a whole rant about the Sonic 3 movie. But now a year later, he's rambling about white men being oppressed. Sir, you rambled about Sonic. Who's taking you seriously?
For ostracization and alienation. I mean, it's suicidal. But that, of course, is the point. Now, the compact piece is the tell that lets you know what's going on here. You're finally being allowed to say out loud that white men have been discriminated against for many years, but you're not allowed to talk about the extent of the discrimination. You're not allowed to talk about the full effects of it. And in polite company, you're still expected to elevate mediocrity in the name of racial justice. I mean, call the article whatever you want, a permission piece, a limited hangout, whatever. But it's not going to be the way to course correct the self-inflicted collapse of our country. The way to fix it, or to have any hope of fixing it, is to admit that white men aren't simply victims.
Well, Matt, I couldn't tell by the way that you're by this hour-long video you're doing. I couldn't tell. Because let's put it this way. If Matt Walsh was the representative of white men, they would be on their way out. I don't know any woman who has some dignity to herself would ever date someone like Matt Walsh. Now, see, Matt Walsh is married. I don't know what his wife is like. I don't think I've ever seen his wife. And I think they have some kids. She must have got with Matt before he started to do all of this. For all we know, she probably trying to plan her escape right now.
They were also key to building Western civilization, and by the same token, they'll be key to saving it. Now let's get to our 5 headlines.
We don't want to. What is this? Oh God, we ain't trying to see no ad. Your sponsor.
Curious hands could easily reach it, but those are not the only options anymore with my Stopbox Pro.
Oh God, let's get past this.
All right. By the way, AmFest is coming up this week.
Oh,
which is very exciting. Look, of course, of my current.
Yeah, AmFest already happened, and it was a disaster.
I wasn't complaining about that. So if you're keeping track, pulled hamstring, playing pickup football outside my house, slipping on the ice. I'm a barely functional person. I mean, that's the truth. I'm barely.
Oh, well, that's probably one of the most honest things he said all day. He said he's barely functional. Self-awareness is a good thing.
Functional. I don't know how I managed to get out of bed in the morning without falling down the steps and killing myself. I don't know how I do it.
You know what? I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. Okay, now we're getting to the part where people like Matt Walsh lost their mind because they done took down another statue of Robert E. Lee. You know they love Robert E. Lee. He is right up there with the stash for them.
And they took down the statue, I think it was a couple of years ago. High-ranking members of Congress were in attendance. Other political figures, Mike Johnson was there. Hakeem Jeffries was there for the unveiling of this new statue. And this is supposed to represent Virginia. So Glenn Youngkin was there. A bunch of other Virginia politicians were there. And anyway, let's watch. Here it is. So everyone's very excited. Lots of different members of Congress put out statements about how wonderful this was, that they replaced Robert E. Lee with that statue. That is Barbara Rose Johns is the name of the person. Cory Booker was excited about Tim Kaine. Glenn Youngkin, as mentioned, was there. He put out this statement. Today we gather in Emancipation Hall of the U.S. Capitol to dedicate the Barbara Rose Johns statue to honor her legacy as a trailblazer and ensure her story of courage and conscience is a story for generations to come. Now, of course, when you hear that, you hear they took down the Robert E. Lee statue, replaced it with Barbara Rose Johns, you might have a few questions. But the first question that pops into your mind is, who the hell is Barbara Rose Johns? You see that, and you're thinking, am I supposed to know who this person is? Barbara Rose Johns? This is someone who supposedly is worthy of being immortalized in the U.S. Capitol, along with the great icons of American history. Shouldn't I know who she is? Like, if I'm a vaguely educated sort of person, and I know a little bit about American history, if there's a statue of a person in the U.S. Capitol, it should be the kind of person that we all at least know who that is.
You can Google it, Matt Walsh. You know, it's a website that's been around since 1998. Just go Google it, and you'll find out who this woman is.
Well, so who is she? Every statement about this has gushed over the fact that she's an icon and a trailblazer and a hero. And who is she? Well, like everybody else, including Glenn Youngkin and Cory Booker and Tim Kaine, I had to check Wikipedia to find out because I have no clue. And here's what it says. Barbara Rose Johns was a leader in the American Civil Rights Movement. On April 23rd, 1951, at the age of 16, Powell led a student strike for equal education opportunities at R.R. Morton High School in Farmville, Virginia. And that's it. I mean, that's actually it. I read the whole Wikipedia.
What's so crazy is that little piece that he wrote is way better than what Robert E. Lee is known for. But notice, this is who they helm up. They helm up a traitor. That is who they see as a hero, is a freaking traitor. That's who they hold up. That's who they pedestalize. If anything, this Rose Johns person is more patriotic than Robert E. Lee ever was. But they don't want to throw that title of patriotism or patriot to black people, because in their eyes, only white people, especially, well, in the case of Matt Walsh, white men are patriots.
The article, but that's it. So she protested for quote unquote equal education opportunities when she was 16 in Farmville, and then she went on to become a librarian. She went to university and studied library science or something like that, and became a librarian, which is fine. I mean, that's a perfectly fine, acceptable life, and she died of cancer in the early 90s, unfortunately. And, it's fine. There are many worse lives that have been lived, for sure. But this is what gets you a statue, is you held a picket sign when you were 16 and then became a librarian. And now we're going to give you a statue. Now you're qualified to stand alongside the greats, like to stand alongside Thomas Jefferson and George Washington.
Well, I wouldn't call Thomas Jefferson a great, considering what we know about Thomas Jefferson, but look at who he's name dropping.
Abraham Lincoln. And you?
You know what he really wants to say, right? How dare they put a statue of this N-word, B-word next to the likes of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and whoever the heck else he mentioned. And how dare they take down the great Robert E. Lee to helm up this N-word, B-word. That's what he really wants to say. God, if I could read minds, I would have a field day with what was going on through that skull of his.
If I showed that statue of Barbara Rose Johns to 10 million people, not one of them, zero of them would be able to correctly identify it as Barbara Rose Johns. If I got 10 million...
You could put up a statue of Robert E. Lee without the name placard there, and I wouldn't be able to identify him.
People in a line and showed them each the statue. Precisely zero of them would say, oh, that's Barbara Rose Johns. Oh, I know Barbara. Old Barbara. I know her anywhere. That's Barbara Rose Johns, who led the protest in Farmville, Virginia. I know that face anywhere. Why that's got to be Barbara Rose Johns. And then if I said...
What it really boils down to is Matt Walsh is mad because it's a black woman statue that's replacing Robert E. Lee. If this was a white man or something like that, Matt Walsh probably wouldn't even bought this up.
You idiots, this is Barbara Rose Johns. Still, zero of them would have any idea who it is. And that's also not an exaggeration, and we all know that. How many total people in the entire country do you think had heard about Barbara Rose Johns prior to today? How many total humans in the country, if you had done a poll of everybody, how many of them could give you even one biographical detail about Barbara Rose Johns? I think, I don't know, 50, maybe 100 at most, probably not that many. Now, granted, if I saw that statue with no context, I could probably have given you at least one vague biographical detail. Like if you'd show me that statue, and especially if you'd given me the context.
Justice said if it was John Brown, he wouldn't get... You want to know what's so funny? People like a Matt Walsh would never bring up a John Brown. They probably don't even know who John Brown is. Now, we know who he is. But let's be real here. When's the last time you saw any white man that had the same spirit as a John Brown? Why do you think Hollywood has never made a movie about John Brown? They'll do every type of slave movie possible around the time John Brown was around and when he did the Harper's Ferry raid with his sons. But never has there ever been a movie about John Brown. I don't think I've ever seen a documentary about John Brown. The most I've talked about John Brown was when I was doing my We Fought Back series, and he was the last entry in that series because he was the last documented slave revolt before they abolished slavery in 1865.
Context of where it was erected and what it was replacing. If you give me, but even without that context, because that makes it a little too easy, you just show me the statue. Don't even tell me where it's from. I would be able to look at it, and I would at least be able to tell you that it must be some kind of civil rights thing because it's a black woman.
I doubt it's a civil rights thing, but knowing Matt, he's not going to go and see why they put that statue there. But all he sees is, oh, they took down Robert E. Lee and replaced it with this black woman who I have no clue who she is.
And so if there's a statue of a black woman being put up somewhere, it's always like a civil rights thing. It's always going to be someone probably who lived within the last 100 years, 150 at the absolute most, and it's a civil rights thing, because there just aren't a lot of black female inventors or like philosophers or war heroes or pioneers or anything else. There just aren't. And I don't say that to be mean or rude. It's just
no, you're just doing it because you're anti-black.
True. But more importantly, I know the pattern, which is this, and it's grounded in this fact, which is that the left has no historical heroes. It's really one of the most striking things about the modern left is that they have no heroes.
Now he done brought politics into it, y'all. This is rough. This is rough. This is absolutely rough.
They just don't have any. So every once in a while, they'll come along and erect a statue to some unremarkable nobody. With all due respect to Barbara Rose Johns, like I said, I got nothing against her. I'm sure she was a nice person. But in historical context, she's not remarkable, which is true of most of us. Most of us are going to die, and it's like we're not going to get statues. In the context of history, most of us will not be remembered. Like almost every person who's ever lived will not be remembered. Almost none of us will ever get statues.
And you know what, Matt Walsh, speak for yourself, because I hope you're throwing yourself into the pile of people that won't be remembered. At least not for anything positive.
And that's just how it is. And that's fine. But, that's just what they do. Every once in a while they come along, they put up some statue to some nobody, calling her an icon, even though everyone has to check Wikipedia to find out who she even is. And then the left will pretend, as soon as you put up they put up the statue, and they say, oh, it's Barbara Rose Johns. Then everyone on the left goes, oh, yeah, what? You don't know who Barbara Rose Johns is, really? And you think you're educated? There's going to be a movie about this woman now, guaranteed. Not because it's an interesting story. They're going to find a way. Netflix is going to have to find a way to get 2 hours of interesting content out of a woman who held up a picket sign and became a librarian.
Notice he mentioned Netflix. Now, I bet you if Paramount would have acquired Warner Brothers, he wouldn't have mentioned Netflix.
They're going to have to, they have to find some kind of way. Like they're going to have to turn her into like a ninja or something. They're going to have to, like in her private life, she was really a secret assassin or something. Like they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to take some serious liberties. She didn't become a librarian. She became a fighter jet pilot or something. It's like Top Gun. Because they have no real heroes. Why? Because all of the true icons of history are problematic, right? All of the great men of history are ruled out because, for one thing, they're men. And for another thing, most of them are white.
Now we're about to circle back into the victimhood, y'all. We're circling back into the victimhood.
When we're talking about the history of Western civilization. And for another, great men, great people are complicated. Very often, those with great virtues tend to also have great vices. So men who are very physically brave may also tend to be aggressive and violent. Men who are geniuses tend to have all kinds of eccentricities of various kinds. They might hold political views, ideological views that are we consider unsavory, And so the nitpickers, the peanut gallery, the men who are not in the arena, right? The critics that Teddy Roosevelt talks about, the nobodies, can always sit on the sidelines and find reasons to criticize the great men. All of the great men, all of the men who did anything notable in history, all of the men who've ever had a statue built to them, whether the statue's been since torn down or not, all of them. There are going to be details of their life that you can look at and say, well, I don't know. They did that. Here's this.
It's funny that Matt Walsh is propping up all these so-called white male hero figures that he's talking about, and he keeps linking it back to statues. Matt Walsh, it's not about the statue. If you see these individuals as heroes like you claim, why don't you, and you have a platform, this time that Matt Walsh has been spending ranting about white men being oppressed, which again is not a thing, he could have spent this time with the millions of followers he has doing stories about these white men. He did a whole short film, a whole movie or whatever it was called Am I a Racist? You could have took that money instead of making that crap and did your own story about these white male heroes if you're so oppressed. You could have did that. But oh no, because this guy his brain is the size of a grain of salt. He gets on here for an hour and rants and rambles about white men in America being oppressed when they're not. Shout out to AW1 for being a member for 43 months. He said Matt Walsh the forever victim and more like him. I appreciate you.
This thing they said this thing over here. I don't know. They did this. They did all that, but they also did this. The weak men, the weak people who are not even good, let alone great, can find problems with the great men.
Appreciate you,
and that's
Church.
The story of our recent history. It's a lot of people who are not even good, let alone great, finding problems, finding issues with the greats. So what are we left with? We're left with a black librarian who held a picket sign when she was 16. You know, our civilization once stood on the shoulders of giants. Giants. We once stood on the shoulders of men, and I keep saying men because, like, most, not all of them were men, who did unthinkable things.
Oh, you're right about that. They did do some unthinkable things, especially the ones you mentioned. Notice who he picks out as his heroes. He said unthinkable things. You right about that.
Okay, this is not just like, oh, she protested because the school was unfair. It's not that. It's like men who did things that
and see, this is insignificant. What this woman did is insignificant to Matt because it didn't affect him. So it's easy for him to get on here and just brush it off as mediocre because it wouldn't have affected him back then, and it doesn't affect him now.
Can't even conceive of how you would have done it. Things that are inconceivable. Men who got on ships before any modern technology existed, who had no idea what the world looked like.
Conquering a land that was already settled in by other inhabitants is not the flex you think it is, Matt Walsh. Just thought you should know.
Entire swaths of the globe, unknown, and they got on ships and managed to go around the entire world and get back to where they started. Do you have any idea how could you do that? How could a person do that? I don't know. Things that are so great that they're not just outside of our capacity, they're outside of our comprehension is how great they were. And the pioneers who went out into the wilderness with nothing, just went out into a hostile wilderness filled with animals and bandits and ruthless, savage Indian tribes that would scalp you while you're still alive. They heard these stories about people being kidnapped and having their scalps removed from their heads while they're still alive and then tortured and killed. And you had people that went out in the midst of that and just like built societies from scratch. So that's what our civilization, we used to stand on the shoulders of those kinds of people. And now we stand on the shoulders of like 3 or 4 random black women who accomplished basically nothing.
This man is a hater. Matt Walsh is such a hater. And this is the person that they like to prop up as the alpha male. Y'all, if this is an alpha male, then the bar is low. It is very, very, very low. And speaking of alpha male, sidebar, y'all notice that a lot of these so-called alpha males been catching L's lately. And you know I talked about that hate in McDougal, the one who got popped, he got across the face in New York. Then you know about Amaral Foodle and Walter down at the Amfest, and they, you know, what happened with them. Then you had Jake Paul, he got his jaw rearranged by Anthony Joshua, and then you had Andrew Tate get washed by a reality TV star who he should have beat. Honestly, all of this happened in like the last week. It ain't looking too good for these so-called alpha males.
I would almost prefer it if they just put up a statue of Karl Marx or Mao or Stalin or somebody like that. I'd almost prefer it. I mean, they're evil men who should not be celebrated, but somehow it feels less insulting. Like, it's still insulting. Somehow to me, it feels less demoralizing to replace a statue of a man of great historic influence with a statue of another man of great, though really bad, historic influence. That's still outrageous. I guess my point is a lot of people are saying, well, next thing you know, they're going to be putting up statues of, fill in the blank, evil guy, Karl Marx. And my point is that, like, actually, we're kind of past that. What we're doing now is worse than that. I think we leapfrogged over that part of the slippery slope. And now we're just tearing down these statues of, like, the greatest people in history and just replacing it with, like, some random librarian. And
the thing is, this rant that Matt Walsh is going on about this woman has gone on way longer than it should have. If he shouldn't have stayed on this more longer than 5 minutes. He's been talking about this woman probably for the last 10 minutes. Like, this really has him riled up.
I find that even more insulting. I really do. Now, Robert E. Lee, on the other hand, was a great man.
Oh, Lord. How did I know he was going to say that? He said Robert E. Lee was a good man, so traitors are good now. Tell us more, Matt.
A great man. And I make no apologies for saying that. I've been saying it my whole career. I make no apologies. He was a great man. He was a brilliant military tactician.
Why was he a great man?
He was one of our greatest military leaders. He was honorable. He was brave. He was
again, y'all, this is a guy who was a traitor to his nation, and he's praising this guy. Remember, these are their heroes. They're not mine, and they'll get mad if you speak ill against Robert E. Lee.
So much more honorable and much braver than any of the people who've torn down his statues. Any of the people in that video standing around clapping like seals. Oh yes, Barbara Rosejohn's a librarian. Robert E. Lee had more greatness and dignity and honor in his pinky finger.
And he lost, by the way, while being a traitor.
I mean, if you don't think that our country would be in a much better place if men like Robert E. Lee were in charge of it rather than these clowns, if you don't think that, then you're a fool.
So he basically said that people like Robert E. Lee, a person who was a traitor and lost the war, should be running the country. And if we feel any type of way about it, then we're fools. Well, I guess I must be Boo-Boo the fool. Because it's no way that a Robert E. Lee-esque type person should be running anything.
Then you are just a stupid fool, and you're not worth talking to, honestly.
Oh, that's fine, Matt. I would not have a conversation with this person even if I felt like talking that day.
If you think what we have now, if you think the people that are tearing down these statues are in any way better than Robert E. Lee, then you are a clown. You are a fool. You are a moron. Unworthy of being taken seriously. Robert E. Lee went to battle against an opponent that was much larger, much better supplied, better armed. Mm-hmm. He was marching with armies of like 16-year-old farm boys. He was marching armies. He was marching with a force of boys and men. And
what's crazy is Matt Walsh. If he had put Matt Walsh in that particular time when Robert E. Lee did what he did, and with the mindset that he has right now, he would have been pissing his pants right there on the front lines. He would be running home to his mommy with his thumb in his mouth.
Some of them didn't even have shoes, okay? They didn't even have shoes. Or they had one pair of shoes and it was worn down to the soles. And he won one battle after another. Do you know how he did that?
Mm-hmm.
Can you even conceive of that? Is that something you could ever do in a million lifetimes?
That's something we know you couldn't do. Wait a minute. Honestly, it probably is. If he lost, yeah, you probably have caught. I can imagine how many L's Matt Walsh has caught over the years.
It's not. His victory at Chancellorsville alone, I mean, that alone is greater than anything that was ever achieved by Barbara Rose Johns or any other random nobody the left venerates. That alone. Chancellorsville, Lee facing a force twice his size. He divides his force repeatedly, extremely risky, bold, brilliant move. He's doing things that would have seemed absolutely crazy to everybody around him and did, except that his men followed. And they followed him because he was a great man. He was a leader that commanded, not demanded, but commanded respect. And so they knew that this sounds crazy. This goes against everything this goes against all the rules. to divide your force like this. We're already outnumbered. And they followed and they did it and it worked. He sends Stonewall Jackson on a wide flanking march. So Lee, already outnumbered severely, he decides to divide his army even more to make it even smaller. And he sends Stonewall Jackson, his best general, through like 10 or 15 miles or whatever it was, marching through back roads and dense forests to hit the Union from its I think it was its right flank, which was exposed. But what this meant was taking like 20 or 30,000 men along with Stonewall out of the fight for basically the whole day, because this would have taken, I mean, this is not a short, they have to march, right? So this would have taken like 10 or 12 hours. What happens if you get just decimated in the meantime? Could have happened. Finally, 12 hours later, they complete the move. They launch their surprise attack from the right flank. It works, sends the Union Army into a panic, disarray. It's a brilliant, risky move. Could have ended in disaster. I mean, ultimately, battle is won. It did end in disaster because Stonewall Jackson was hit with friendly fire and he died 6 or 7 days later, which was a pivotal loss. But this is what I mean when I talk about greatness. This is greatness.
And again, like DSA said, he never acknowledged the L, but he's referring to this as greatness.
And you can point out all of the, well, he fought for the Confederacy. He fought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't change that this was a great man.
Yes, it does. I wasn't gonna play the drop tonight, but I'm gonna have to. I am. I just am.
Listen. Fuck up. Get out.
Damn. It's a bunch of bull.
Y'all, I present to you the so-called high IQ.
And his personal motivation in doing so, as I've said so many times. If people had any capacity, like we used to be able to, 100 years ago, back when a lot of these statues were being put up, we were able to talk about the Civil War with some measure of nuance. People took it less personally, which, as I've often pointed out, makes no sense. How could it be that 100 years ago, people took it less personally, were more capable of talking about this and understanding it kind of from both sides than we are today? That was back when, like, your father was in the Civil War or your grandfather. You had relatives who died in the Civil War. And now it's 100 years after that. And you've got people that, oh, the wounds are so deep. I can't even see a Robert E. Lee statue. It hurts me so much. Oh, shut the up.
Ooh. Ooh, Matt, he getting heated. He up here cussing. He's using 4-letter words. Tell him why you're mad, Matt.
Hurt you. You don't even know who he is.
You don't know, clearly. You don't know who he is either. Imagine you trying to give us a history lesson on a man you barely know.
You don't know anything about him. You know nothing about him whatsoever.
He's taking this personally. You hear that? Like, you can hear in his voice, he's getting emotional. He's taking this very personally. You would think that he was related or a descendant of Robert E. Lee.
What Chancellorsville is. Go ahead, name one battle of the Civil War. Can you do that? No, you can't. And yet you're so injured. You're so hurt. It's so, I can't, I feel so attacked. Most of these people, do you even know like what years, do you even know what century the Civil War was fought in? We're pulling down these statues at the behest of people. They couldn't even tell you, within 300 years, tell me when the Civil War was fought. Probably couldn't even do that. I don't know, the 1400s.
Why
I must
don't you
also
tell
say
us,
that my real frustration, the reason why I get so heated is, it's not just with the Democrats here, but this is Republicans. We control Congress and the White House. Why was this allowed to happen? What's the point of being in power if we're going to let this happen? That's my question.
It was in Virginia. It was a state issue, not a federal one, you buffoon. Oh, this man is so mad and he don't know why he mad.
Let it or participate in the humiliation ritual. Not just letting it happen or participating.
A humiliation ritual. Wow.
What's the point? Why did we?
He feels like them taking down the statue of Robert E. Lee, a white man, and putting it up of this black woman is somehow tearing down white men. Because all white men identify with Robert E. Lee.
Elect you. You're going to sit there. We elected you, and you're going to sit there and applaud this? Because you don't have the balls to stand up and say, because you're worried that people will say, oh, you support slavery, because you're still worried about that. You don't have.
Now, look what he just did there. He said, "Oh, you're worried about slavery." I don't even know why he brought up slavery, because when this happened with this woman, this was in the 50s, so this was during Jim Crow. So that just shows you Matt Walsh don't even know history on that aspect. But look at how he just brushed slavery aside. Like, he just brushed it aside, but he wants us to feel the way he feels about a Robert E. Lee statue. Again, this is why I feel nothing.
The balls to stand up there and say, shut up. No, what are you no one supports slavery, you dumbass. It's not what this is about. You're still worried about that? Why are you there? Why did we elect you? Love it.
You didn't elect anybody, Matt Walsh. This was a state thing. And last time I checked, I don't think you live in the state of Virginia. And he talking about why did we?
Answer to that question. This episode is sponsored.
Okay, we don't want to see another sponsor. Now I see why you went on and on and on. You went on because you want to push these sponsors. That's what it is. We don't care about your nature or balance of whatever.
All right, here's the Minneapolis police chief condemning ICE raids in the city. And he takes as they so often do on this subject anyway, he takes a biblical approach, or his closest attempt at a biblical approach. Let's listen to that.
It's especially personal to me, having been raised a Catholic, to be in a Christian church this morning as we are approaching Christmas. And I cannot help but think of what is happening in our city today and how that echoes with how outsiders have been treated for thousands of years, how Mary and Joseph themselves were considered outsiders and forced to stay in a barn. That's what we're getting ready to commemorate as Christians around the world, while all of this fear is happening right here in our town.
So he says he's raised a Catholic, and that phrase, is, it's like what is the Inglourious Bastards meme where he's holding up three fingers, and but he's holding up he's holding up this. I forget how he held him up in a way that let the other guy know that he's a fake. And it's that's what it's like when someone says raised Catholic. You got one of these people say, "I was raised Catholic." What you mean is that you're no longer Catholic, you're not practicing, and you don't care about your faith. Because anyone who actually is Catholic, like is a practicing Catholic, if I was to talk about that fact, I would not say I was raised Catholic. I would just say I'm Catholic. That's what I would say. And yet, so you're raised Catholic, which means that you are what you're telling me almost certainly is that you're an apostate. And yet here you are pretending to take something personally because of your Catholic faith, which you don't care about, which you probably stopped practicing if you ever did to begin with 30 years ago. Now, for a lot of these people, they were raised, like they weren't even raised Catholic. Even that's not true for most of them. Most of them, they were raised Catholic as in, yeah, they were maybe confirmed. And they went to church like 5 times their entire childhood. Their parents didn't care about it either. And then, and they don't care about it. Like they weren't even raised Catholic. You're not Catholic. You weren't raised Catholic. There's nothing Catholic about you. And yet they use this to make these kinds of arguments. Because if this guy, Brian O'Hara, actually cared about his faith and had ever read the gospel in his life, which if you're really a Catholic, then you would think you'd have read the gospel maybe once or twice, or,
DSA, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where he's going with this.
If he had, then he would know that he just said like the dumbest thing that's been uttered by an open borders liberal in at least the past 17 minutes. It is that dumb. Mary and Joseph were not outsiders in Bethlehem, Brian.
Okay, so now he's going into the religious part. Let me see if I can skip ahead a little bit, because he's rambling again. I don't know what he
shall not lie with a man as with a woman. It's an abomination. Homosexuality and that.
Okay.
It's just, well, here's what it says on that. Male and female, he created them. That's it. With their tortured, horrifically perverse understanding of Scripture around the world. We even use.
Oh God!
All right. Finally, Axios reports that Kamala Harris is stepping towards another White House run.
Okay, so now he's talking about something else. So now it's like he's gotten off of that. Okay, y'all. Woo! That was a lot. That was a lot. But I know y'all have something to say. We've been here for over an hour. Like I said, make sure I hit the like button. The link is right there in the chat. I'm grabbing the timer. Y'all know how we do it over here. Shout out to y'all for having to endure this along with me. This was not easy. Wallow, what's going on?
What's going on, Torian? What's going on, everybody? And say, yeah, that was just. Don't he realize that was a state issue more than a federal issue? Is he that damn dumb?
Yes, he is, but he thinks he's that smart.
I was like, bro, that's a state issue. Federal can't get involved in state business, you idiot. Oh my goodness. Now we see why these white women don't want to be with them no more, Torian. It's exhibit A, B, C, and D. Pause. Because of dudes like this, you're complaining about being oppressed when y'all are in power, when you have, like he said, you got the presidency, you have the House and the Senate. Why are you still bitching? Why? It makes zero sense, but then again, it does make sense because they're miserable. They got all this power and they have nothing to show for it, got nothing to do for it. They own everything. Why are you so obsessed with what Hollywood doing? Ain't y'all not supposed to be watching Hollywood? Y'all not supposed to be watching Disney,
Many of them got
Netflix.
IMDb. Many of them have IMDb accounts. They just ain't been updated in years.
Exactly. They're like we talked about on this channel. They're failed actors. All of them are. From him, Kansas Owens, Tim Pool, all of them. Charlie Kirk too. But Torian, is it the end of the year yet? Cause we gotta get a fresh restart.
Like I said, if you think what we talked about today is something, wait till Wednesday when I actually discuss how they're actually trying to turn what Matt Walsh is talking about on here into policy. Like when I saw it, my mind was blown. Like I said, they
My
actually
eye
are
was
trying
too.
to. I said they actually are trying to do this.
There really are. Two quick points before I get off. That video, I don't know if you saw, but there was another video that Admiral Foodle put out of him and what you call actually getting into AmFest, taking it with a grain of salt. And I also posted a video in the Discord from Shade Room with a resurfaced clip. I don't know if you want to use it or not, of Charlie Kirk basically dissing what you call it, Nikki. So yeah, buzzer.
Type it in the chat, Wallow. That's all I gotta say. Type it in the chat. Or you know what? Better yet, put it in the Discord. All right. Next up, we got King Covey. What's going on?
Nothing much. How are you?
I'm doing good.
All right. Okay. Respectfully, to your platform, that is. Dude sound like he wanted every single one of those men he name dropped. I'm just being brutally honest. Like, dude, he's just going on and on about men this, men that. Dude, it sounds like that's who you want. Go ahead, dig him up and get with him. That's all I got to say behind that. And what, like, huh? Since when were white men? You know what? I don't even care. Hey, appreciate your everything you doing, man. Keeping us informed and everything. You have a nice one.
Appreciate you coming up. Shout out to King Covey. Next up, we got Jonathan. What's going on?
What's up, man? As you was talking about Jay, I was saying busting, busting, busting. And it happened. Payback, Wallow. All right. Anyway, that thing with Walsh, that really blew my mind. Bro, if I swear they go with that policy, man, I'm gonna lose it. So it's okay to have this policy, PC, what you say, PC person to get to make some
No,
policy, make it legal.
no. Specifically white men, because the policy is honing in specifically on white men. It doesn't include white women. Like this is something that they're trying to implement for white men exclusively.
Wow.
Yeah, like I
That's
said,
jacked up.
wait till like I wish I was available tomorrow to do the live because I'm anxious for y'all to see it. But Wednesday will get here before we know it, and we're gonna go over it. I made sure to bookmark it. I looked it up and everything. Like this is actually they're actually trying to make this a thing.
And I swear I wanted this to be a prank so bad, but unfortunately, you told me it wasn't. God damn it, bro. What we gonna do if this turns out to be a thing, man?
Oh,
Do
they're
you
gonna
know have
abuse it.
any idea?
They're gonna abuse it, no doubt about it.
Oh, well, let me get out of here before I bust out because I'm actually want to be a bust my dang stuff after this. Yeah. So, peace out, man. Be one.
Appreciate you coming up. Shout out to Jonathan for coming up. All right, next up we got. Is it iCal? Is it iCal?
Be one.
B1.
B1.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It might be. Is it a delay on your end?
I don't know what's going on.
It might be. I don't know if it's a delay on your end or not.
All right, that's kind of a. I'm sorry about this. That's kind of a. I can't hear you on my side because I had to pause my TV.
All right. Well, actually go out and then come back. Yeah, go out and come back in. Mansa Musa, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Well, you did this. You started this live stream. First thing I thought was,
I can't tell how many times I've heard that sound in a soundboard for the last month. It's funny. It is funny though, and it applies to this. It definitely applies to this.
Oh my god, bro! I'm listening. Then I stopped listening because I was playing Resident Evil 4 on the Xbox. And I was listening. I heard you made your points. I said, all right, cool. As soon as I heard him kept talking, Lord, bro, I don't know what. I don't know. I tuned out then. He's so boring. How does he even have a channel? What does the subscribers do when he comes on his channel? Like, what do they do?
I don't know. Listen. This video that y'all watched, he posted this up on Twitter. This wasn't even off of YouTube. So he probably posted it on YouTube and he probably downloaded it and then re-uploaded it onto Twitter. And that's how I got it. I don't be following Matt Walsh, but because the algorithm is so messed up because of what Elon did when he bought it, his stuff be popping up on my page, and that's how I found it.
Right. Yeah. You know how they got community tabs on YouTube. Like how I like stuttering and shit. I'm trying to figure out how do people. I almost want to be a fly on the wall and be like, what do y'all do? Is there polls he takes? Like, how does he come up with these videos? And are y'all genuinely excited to watch this shit? It can't be, because every time I think about it, it's every time it's, and I can't do it. I was trying to listen to her, and I really was. I was listening to you making your points after he kept talking. That was it for me. This is my last time playing. Is it after you kept talking? It's a done deal. I'm out. All right.
Shout out to Mansa Musa for coming up. All right, next up we got. I have a feeling. I think I might know who this is. This is why Becky hates you. His name. What's going on?
What up, Torian? This is Church.
Okay. Okay, you got me. It wasn't KG. I thought it was going to be.
Hey,
I was expecting it.
I had to do something KG-esque. You dig what I'm saying? Because everything that Matt just protruded was just, as Kansas always can't dance would say, just pure estrogen. This dude literally, just went off because he's mad of a situation he had no knowledge of. Mm-hmm. You don't know who these people are. You don't know about Virginia history. And I don't want to hear any one of these people talk about America first anymore. When this dude just sat here and tried to big up Robert E. Lee, a known traitor to America. This is this is why Becky hates you. Becky don't want nothing to do with you. Because you guys are just way too sassy. She's the man of the relationship at this point in time. Matt Walsh is the woman in every relationship that he's ever been in, and I guarantee you that. You got some chick in the background, put it on the strappy right now to take them down. But I'll land right there, family. Thank you for having me up, brother.
Appreciate you coming up. Shout out to Church for coming up. Next, we got AW1. What's going on?
What's going on, Torian? Chat? Yeah, you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it just... Man, this marshmallow boiled egg mofo just wants to... We just live rent free in his mind.
Of course. We always do. Always have been. I mean, without us, what would they talk about?
Right. And now Ben Shapiro, his boss, is... he has no problem saying most racist things about our people, but you talk about his people, you get the boot. Oh, that's too far.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's talking about, now he wants to get other Republicans saying that, oh, why you say this about our people? But what, why don't y'all want to cancel Candace Owens? By the way, as you know, I'm no fan of hers, and I never will be. But back to this boiled egg marshmallow fool. Yeah, man. Go take a nap. Go get a blanket, take a nap, bro. Take a damn out.
Yeah, he do look tired.
All right, man. Be one, Torian. Stay woke.
Appreciate you. Shout out to AW1 for coming up. Yeah, Matt Washing as per usual. Every time I see his stuff pop up on Twitter, it's like I get instant nauseate. I instantly get nauseated. Like I just want to like vomit. It's like, okay, Matt. And literally, when I saw his post, the first thing I did was I reposted it on my Twitter, and I said it must be a heavy flow month for Matt because this is on brand. But right here, he was really upset, as mad as Matt Walsh could possibly get. In Denver, Matt Walsh doesn't wash. He probably don't, or if he does, probably like once or twice a week. But yeah. Okay, it looks like AW1 was the last person to come up. I was trying to wait to see it was the person who came up before who had the technical issues, but he didn't click. I had put the link in the chat again to see if he would come back up, but he didn't click it. So I guess maybe he'll pop back in on Wednesday. But shout out to Quincy Gray, Wallow J, AW1, and Church for being members of the channel. I greatly appreciate it. The next live again will be on Wednesday. That's when we're going to go over that policy that they're trying to implement. Now, Ms. Nisi didn't come up today, unfortunately, AW1. Maybe she'll come up on Wednesday. But on Wednesday, we're going to be live again at 7 p.m. the same time, and we're going to go over that policy that they're trying to implement to try to help out these oppressed white men in the workplace, and how I truly believe they're going to abuse the hell out of that thing. I see it coming. But with that being said, y'all, we're going to bring this live to a close. Of course, there will be a video going up tomorrow. I'm going to probably put the premiere window up. Oh, hold on. Hold on. We got someone that just came up. Matt Walsh done popped up, y'all. He done found the live, and now he's here.
Hello, Torian. I just witnessed you did a live on me. So I just want to let you know, you have some big problems now, sir. What do you have to say yourself with this cowardly act that you just pulled off?
I have this to say. That brings this live to a close. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe, stay warm, and most importantly, be one.